It's February the 16th. Thank you for making time for NTV Weekend Edition. Ahead. Kenya recalls its ambassador to Somalia and orders Somalia's ambassador to leave.
The government of Kenya cannot and will not stand by as its demarches are ignored and its territorial integrity is infringed upon.
As maritime border dispute escalates.
Declaration of the result of the election by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission in respect of the governor of Wajir County is hereby upheld.
Supreme Court under scrutiny of a decision in Wajir governorship contest as allegations of graft in the highest court mar decision.
Why all this mischief? We do not understand why they're bringing all these issues up after we agreed for that dialogue of which we're expecting implementation of all these things that we are asking. That is promotion and return to work formula.
Kenya National Union of Nurses accuses government of ill motives of a Council of Governors directive not to deduct union fees.
Mambo ya uchaguzi, maneno ya viongozi, maneno ya vyeo ilimalizika mwaka uliopita wakati wananchi walipiga kura. Sasa ile iko kazi hapa ni kazi ya wananchi.
Deputy President William Ruto unveiled attack on push to change structure of governance.
NTV Weekend Edition with Gladys Gachanja.
Thank you for joining us. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Flora Ateno. The government has recalled Kenya's ambassador to Somalia in the first clear sign of an escalating diplomatic row. Kenya is accusing Somalia of auctioning off oil and gas deposits from a site that it claims is in Kenyan territorial waters. Kenya is accusing Somalia of being an unfair neighbor despite all the goodwill Kenya has shown to Somali people, even as it faces the threat of terror, which it says is bred within Somali territory. Somalia first filed a complaint at the International Court of Justice regarding its maritime borders dispute with Kenya, with the issue still in court even as relations break down.
A battle for territorial sovereignty over Indian Ocean waters off the coast of Kenya and Somalia could be the reason for the simmering tension experienced at the moment, with Kenya complaining of an unreasonable neighbor whose choices at a London event on the 7th of this month have given rise to the latest actions.
Kenya has summoned its ambassador to the Federal Republic of Somalia, Ambassador Lieutenant General retired Lucas Tumbo. He has been summoned back to Nairobi for urgent consultations. The summons is a consequence of a most regretful and egregious decision by the government of Somalia to auction off oil and gas blocks in Kenya's maritime territorial area that borders Somalia.
For years, Kenya and Somalia have fought over waters of the Indian Ocean, a battle that has been taken to the international stage, with each party drawing the line where it believes the border lies. The promise of rich gas and oil deposits in the area a key factor in the row.
The government of Kenya cannot and will not stand by as its demarches are ignored and its territorial integrity is infringed upon and its sovereign resources are carved out and shared out by an ungracious and unbrotherly neighbor acting to satisfy the greed of commercial interests resident in foreign lands.
Kenya has expressed concern about the actions of her neighbor, whom she says has needed Kenya's shoulder to cry on, especially in the last 2 decades when millions of her citizens have streamed into Kenya due to civil war and more recently the threat of terror inside Somalia.
Kenya hosts over 400,000 Somali refugees and asylum seekers in Kenya, despite the hijacking of these humanitarian spaces by terrorists and criminal elements who have used the camps to plan and launch terror attacks in Kenya.
Kenyan troops are inside Somalia as part of the AMISOM peacekeeping mission, with Kenya hosting what was one of the world's largest refugee camps, which it has planned to close, and with the latest row, much remains at stake. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
Elsewhere, 3 people, among them a police officer, were injured following clashes between members of the Pokot and Turkana communities in Kainuk. The clashes have led to the closing of businesses and paralyzed transport in the area, with police trying to restore order.
Furious residents from Turkana demonstrated in Kainuk, Turkana. Shortly after these demonstrations, gunshots rent the air, forcing those gathered to scatter for safety. In the latest incident, a 15-year-old boy was shot by cattle rustlers as he was out herding livestock.
Atiangi na Boynet wakiwa Naro walikuwa wanasema watakuja kuangalia mambo ya mpaka ya Waturkana na Pokot upande ya Kainuk. Na hapa sasa hivi Wapokot bado wanaendelea kupiga wananchi.
Residents of Turkana have blamed the leadership of West Pokot for steering the conflict. On the other hand, West Pokot is blaming Turkana leadership.
Yeye ndiye anafanya incitement.
Na tumeshangaa kwamba wala askari wanakaa upande ya Turkana wana behave ni kama watu wa nchi nyingine.
The ongoing conflict has affected education, with schools in the area forced to close indefinitely. Businesses have also shut down, and transport from Kitale to Lodwar has been effectively paralyzed. 3 journalists, Peter Warutumo from NTV, Sami Luther from the Daily Nation and Mike Ekutan from Radio Maisha, are among a group of people who are caught in the crossfire as attackers and residents engaged in a gun battle for the better part of the day in Kainuk. The injured were taken to Kitale Hospital for further treatment. Helen Aura, NTV.
To the corridors of justice now, the Supreme Court ruling that validated the election of Wajir Governor Mohammed Abdi has sparked heated debate and raised credibility questions against the highest court in the land. Some lawyers accuse the apex court of ruling in favor of the governor, despite overwhelming evidence tabled against him. Silas Apollo reports on this latest criticism pointed at the courts and the responses it has generated among Kenyans.
When Chief Justice David Maraga and Supreme Court Judge Smokin Wanjala walked into the packed courtroom on Friday to deliver the ruling on the Wajir gubernatorial race, few expected what was to come. This is because, for starters, the ruling was going to be delivered by 2 judges unlike in the previous cases, and 2, because for the first time there were dissenting opinions among the judges.
And for the 4th respondent, similarly.
And now it is these divergent opinions that have generated the most interest. Critics of the court say that the majority ruling was not satisfactory. Senior counsel Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, who represented former Governor Ahmed Abdullahi, the first respondent in the case, alleged that the judgment had been influenced. Tweeting shortly after the ruling, Abdullahi alleges that, quote, the problem with corruption in the Kenyan Supreme Court, as aptly shown by the judgment of the Wajir gubernatorial petition, is that corruption is single-sourced and is not open and competitive. My client was not invited to put his bid, and some judges took money from only one party. End of quote. He further goes to say that he intends to write to Chief Justice David Maraga on Monday to disclose the names of the judges who were allegedly bribed. The senior counsel went ahead to note that a member of parliament was involved in the bribery and that the bribe had been handed over at a bank branch in Eastleigh Estate in Nairobi. And the Law Society of Kenya also weighed in. Chairman Allen Gishui asked the aggrieved parties to table their evidence in court to assist with the investigations. The allegations of bribery in the courts are not a new phenomenon. Chief Justice Maraga has admitted that there are problems in the corridors of justice, but he has also emphasized that action can only be taken once tangible evidence is tabled.
There is corruption in the judiciary, even in the judiciary, as it is everywhere. Judges are there, and I mean, we get information from people, but information which is not actionable.
And presently, Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu is also battling a case in which she has been accused of conflict of interest and abuse of office.
The judgment of the Court of Appeal.
During the Friday ruling, Justices Mohammed Ibrahim, Jackton B. Ojwang, Smokin Wanjala and Njoki Ndung'u accused the respondent of filing his complaint against the governor's academic qualifications late. But Chief Justice Maraga said Mohammed's academic qualifications were suspect after he had told a parliamentary committee when he was being vetted to become Kenya's ambassador to Saudi Arabia that he was yet to graduate.
My brother will give a summary of...
A few months later, he claimed he had obtained a master's degree in business administration from Kampala University. Residents of Wajir also had mixed reactions to the ruling.
We have to build bridges. This Wajir is for all of us.
Those who lost the petition have to come back and at the end of the day work with the old man so that we finish the development project.
Taylor's Apollo, NTV.
Senior counsel Tom Ojenda could be headed for more trouble in his quest to represent the Law Society of Kenya in the Judicial Service Commission. This is after his nomination was opposed by a section of lawyers due to his ongoing legal battles in court. The LSK council is expected to meet on Monday to deliberate on the way forward after LSK President Gladys Gachanja opposed the approval of Ojenda and Kiambu County Assembly Speaker Gladys Gachanja to contest for the position. Gachanja told NTV there will be a meeting on Monday to iron out the issues and give the way forward on whether Ojenda and Gachanja are eligible to run. Ojenda was disqualified on account of lacking a tax compliance certificate and Gachanja for representing or presenting his nomination papers late, in addition to failing to attach the requirements prescribed in the LSK's Electoral Code of Conduct. The vetting team was comprised of Professor Kameri Mbote, Kenneth Akide and Joyce Majiwa. To health matters now, the Kenya National Union of Nurses, which is accusing the government of mischief in dealing with the ongoing nurses strike, while the union is particularly icked by a new Council of Governors directive to counters not to deduct union fees from members' salaries and instead allow union members the freedom to remit their fees once they receive their salaries. ODM leader Raila Odinga wants the nurses to resume duty by Monday, but nurses maintain that only the Secretary General Seth Panyako has power to call off the strike. NTV's Sharon Baranga with more.
A statement from the chair of the Council of Governors, Wycliffe Oparanya, released yesterday had content that did not rub off well with the leadership of the Kenya National Union of Nurses. It said in part, and I quote, "Following consultations between the national and the county governments, it has been agreed that, going forward, it will no longer be the responsibility of the government to deduct union dues from health workers and remit to their unions." The statement continues to say, county governments should not deduct and remit the union dues to the Kenya National Union of Nurses. Instead, the full salaries should be paid to the nurses to enable them remit their dues to the union if they so wish. End of quote.
So it's our money, and we don't understand why they are bringing this issue, escalating things to this. Because yesterday, the minister, Mr. Okuratan, asked for a dialogue, and that is what we are looking for. Why all this mischief? We do not understand why they are bringing all these issues up after we agreed for that dialogue of which we are expecting implementation of all these things that we are asking. That is promotion and return to work formula.
It is close to 2 weeks since nurses called for industrial action, and they say the strike is on until the government fulfills its end of the deal.
As a union, our strike still stands. And we believe that our strike is legal and protected under the Constitution of Kenya, Article 41.
And these are the grievances they want the government to address.
Mwanzo kupandishwa vyeo vyetu. Hiyo tunasisitiza sana, kwanza sisi wauguzi wa serikali kuu. Manake tumekwama. Zile fedha zingine ambazo tulikubaliana zetu ambazo wanafaa kutupea kama marupurupu, kwa sababu wanaelewa zile kazi ambazo tunazifanya, wakakubali waweze kuzitimiza ili tuweze kufanya kazi.
And just like President Uhuru Kenyatta, ODM leader Raila Odinga says nurses should resume duty immediately for the sake of suffering patients.
Wakati wanazungumza wagonjwa wasikufe. Kwa mimi ningependa kuuliza waaguzi wote katika taifa letu, isifike Jumatatu kama hawajarudi kazini.
Mpaka tusikie kutoka kwa jenerali wetu ambaye ni Seth Panyako asema mazungumzo yamekuwa na faida ama yamefaa, na huu ndio mwelekeo. Ule mwelekeo atatupa ndio tutaufuata.
As nurses and the government continue to flex their muscles, Kenyans continue to suffer.
Sisi kama wauguzi tunataka tupate suluhu ili tuweze kwenda kuhudumia wagonjwa wetu kama vile tulitaka hiyo kazi ya kuwahudumia. Lakini kukiwa na huu msukosuko ambao uko kati yetu na serikali unaleta shida na tashwishi. Tunataka pia wananchi wetu wapate kuelewa yale ambao tunayapitia na wapate kutolea, sio kwa kupenda kwetu, ni kwa sababu tumesukumwa kwenye kona na serikali.
Labour Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani maintains the nurses on strike are in contempt of court. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
Former Ruaraka Police Station OCS Nahashon Mutua faces even more troubles after getting sentenced to death this week. A man who claims that the former OCS assaulted him on the same day he tortured Martin Kombe to death wants justice. Victor Kioko, Mutua's latest victim to come forward, says a case he filed against the killer cop has been frustrated in court, with police officers in his neighborhood relentlessly persecuting him for suing one of their own. NTV's Kevin Mutai spoke to Kioko, the man who wants OCS Mutua to face justice.
Security, Rambi House.
On the 20th of February 2014, Victor Kioko wrote a letter addressing the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Internal Security, the Chairman, Independent Policing Oversight Authority, the Office of the Ombudsman and the Senate. He says he was seeking justice after the former Ruaraka OCS Nahashon Mutua allegedly assaulted him in the police cell. Kioko says he had been arrested for an unpaid bill at a bar that had the owner call in the police. It is how he found himself in the police cell.
Kuingia pale kwenye mlango ni jamaa alikuwa anachapwa. Huyo jamaa alikuwa anapiga nduru, alikuwa anachapwa ndani ya obi upande wa ndani. So wakati anapiga nduru, nisaidiane nisamehe, hiyo ndo kelele alikuwa anatoa na sauti alikuwa anasema. Na wakati niliingia ndani, kwa sababu mwenye alikuwa anampiga akipigwa ako chini kwenye obi, na ninaona tu mkono unainuka sababu jamaa mwenye alikuwa anampiga alikuwa amevaa jaketi.
Part of the letter reads, and I quote, "I found him beating up an unarmed man with an iron bar for allegedly neglecting a child." End of quote.
The first thing akanipiga ngumi. Ile chuma alikuwa anapiga huyo jamaa akanichapa hivi. Sasa kwenda kushika kichwa hivi sababu niliona nimetoka damu. Ndio akaanza kunipiga, ndio akanivunja mkono hapa.
Kioko accuses Mutua of causing him bodily harm, the results of which are still visible in the form of scars on his body. He claims that Mutua has been frustrating his case, tampering with witnesses, and even offered him a sum of 1 million shillings to buy his silence in the past.
Haikuwa ni yake kunipa ile pesa. Ni yake ni vile atanipata ndio aweze kuniangamiza.
The OCS Nahashon Mutua was on Thursday, February 14th, 2019, found guilty of murder and was handed a death sentence.
Any person who or malice aforethought causes the death of another.
Judge Martha Mutuku ruled that the prosecution proved beyond any reasonable doubt that Mutua killed Martin Kome by clobbering him with a metal bar in the cell and immersing his head in water. Kioko wants his share of justice, saying he suffered at the hands of Mutua, but not as much as the late Kome did.
Iliweza kufika time nikauliza the State Council, kwa nini kesi yangu kila mara kwa mara haiendelei? Kutoka pale akaniambia yeye anaenda likizo. Kuenda likizo naye magistrate alikuwa na kesi yangu mbeleni akaondoka.
He still fears for his life since his story still implicates other officers who he says have been working with Mutua over time to frustrate him. Kevin Mutai, NTV.
Over 30 street lights installed in Nairobi along the Langata Highway have been vandalized by unknown people, causing insecurities in the area. The street lighting project has been in progress since last year, but is facing challenges following continued vandalism, especially along Langata Road. At least 20 lamps were stolen between Multimedia University and Mokoma Road. Residents and road users are worried about their safety and overall security along the highway and want the lights restored and the vandalism checked.
The lights that are in between Bomas of Kenya and Kenya Wildlife Services, so many of those lights have been uprooted. This is truly a concern because we know definitely those are sections which are being used by students. That is one. This is an area that is is constant having wild animals venturing into residences, and these lights are truly an essence to all of us.
At this point, we take our first short break here on NTV Weekend Edition. A lot more waiting for you after this break.
Gladys Gachanja.
Thank you for staying with us. The Shauri Moyo police station in Nairobi is on the spot, with residents accusing 2 police officers of a shooting incident that led to the amputation of David Mutunga's hand, who is currently admitted at the Kenyatta National Hospital. David, a water vendor at Bama Market, was engaged in a game of cards with 6 friends outside Bama Market when 2 police officers on patrol approached them. 3 of the youngsters fled while the rest stayed. A policewoman claims she accidentally shot Mutunga as she tried to shoot in the air, and 2 boys were injured. And in the ensuing commotion, police arrested 2 more youth, one of whom is a high school student. Residents say the police have wrongly charged the 2 with trying to snatch a police firearm and want them released. Both are currently detained at Industrial Area Remand Prison after they denied the charge and could not raise a bond of 500,000 shillings. They are now seeking for justice and action against a police officer who shot the young man.
Amepigwa risasi ya mkono pande ya right. Saa hii sasa ako hospitali Kenyatta. Tayari mkono yake ishakatwa.
Tulikuwa na yeye kitu 6:30. Na vile tuliachana nikamwambia nataka kumtuma. Dakika kidogo mimi nikatoka hapa Bama Marketing. Kufika nje sikumuona. Mimi nikaenda kwa nyumba. Kufika kwa nyumba ndio nilipigwa simu, mtoto wangu ameshikwa. Unasemekana alipatwa akinyang'anya polisi bunduki.
To some politics now, Deputy President William Ruto says the government should focus on delivering on its promises to the public and that it is premature for the country to contemplate changes in the governance system. Ruto was speaking in Bomet County during a county funds drive to help the needy register for NHIF in its push to achieve universal health coverage. NTV's Bridget Ngana was in Bomet and files this report.
At Celebrate Grounds in Bomet County, Deputy President William Ruto stuck to his guns that it is still premature to push for governance changes in the country.
Mambo ya uchaguzi, maneno ya viongozi, maneno ya vyeo ilimalizika mwaka uliopita wakati wananchi walipiga kura. Sasa ile iko kazi hapa ni kazi ya wananchi. Hatuwezi kuwa tunazungumza mambo ya siasa na viongozi na vyeo kila mwaka nenda mwaka rudi.
The Deputy President insisting that the government should focus on achieving the Big Four agenda and fulfilling its campaign pledges.
Malengo yetu ni kuhakikisha kwamba tunatimiza mipango ya maendeleo ya taifa letu la Kenya. Hatuna nafasi ya porojo na story na fitina. Sisi tunalenga kubadilisha maisha ya wananchi wa Kenya.
Dr. Ruto was speaking in Bomet County during a half marathon the county had organized to raise funds to support families that have not yet registered for NHIF, a prerequisite for the country's universal health coverage ambitions.
Bomet has a population of about 1 million. At the moment, from what we are told, we are at about 42% coverage. So we still have another almost 60% of people who are still uncovered. And therefore, anybody that can come up on board, any amount that we are able to raise, increases our coverage.
Hospitali hii tuko na vifaa zingine za dialysis, kutibu magonjwa ya figo, wale watu wako na blood pressure na mambo ya figo sasa watashughulikiwa katika hospitali yenu hii. Tulianza mwaka uliopita na kazi hiyo inaendelea.
The opening of this oncology department here at Longisa Hospital in Bomet County is a sign of hope for those who have been suffering from cancer here in this county. In the past, they were forced to travel for longer distances to get treatment. Bridget Ngana, NTV, Bomet County.
Elsewhere, a group of leaders from Western and Nyanza region have come out strongly to call for a referendum to change the constitution to strengthen devolution and entrench diversity and national inclusivity in running of a national government. The leaders say constitutional change is inevitable and it will provide a good opportunity for Kenyans to change the structure of governance and deal with major challenges facing the country.
Sasa ile mambo tunaongea building bridges, handshake na kwenda mbele, hiyo yote sisi tunajua pahali inalenga. Na jukumu yake kubwa ni kusaidia Wakenya na kutatua shida za Wakenya.
Lazima tupigane na ufisadi. Na lazima tufanye kazi pamoja.
To ensure we have equitable distribution of leadership positions and resources in this country.
We want national inclusivity to be part of national government. Tunataka kuomba Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga, ambaye pia tunamshukuru sana kwa ile mambo ya handshake yenye imefanya Kenya imekuwa nchi moja. We want this country to be united. Ndio tunataka kuomba watu wa huku mtuunge mkono, tufanye referendum, tubadilishe katiba.
Now, a fight over the allocation of funds has taken center stage in Elgeyo Marakwet County after Governor Alex Tolgos and Senator Kipchumba Murkomen engaged in a war of words over the projects that should be given priority. Governor Tolgos, who threw the first punch on Friday, accused the senator of residing in Nairobi instead of serving the people. Murkomen, on the other hand, accused the county boss of lacking managerial ideas to run the county.
Na nataka niombe seneta wetu. Nimesikia jana ameongea kule Senate, anasema pesa ya Elgeyo Marakwet ni mingi. Sasa mimi nashangaa yeye atuambie ni public participation meeting ngapi amewahi attend Elgeyo Marakwet. Sijai muona hata moja. Na hiyo ndio mahali raia watakutana na yeye, wamuulize hiyo pesa kama inatosha ama haitoshi. Lakini haitoshi tu, labda unaonekana weekend moja na kurudi Nairobi. Alafu uje useme Elgeyo Marakwet pesa inatosha.
The problem with Elgeyo Marakwet County is not the lack of money. It's not poverty because of lack of resources. It's poverty because of lack of ideas. It's a lack of proper channeled leadership in the county government to make a difference in the lives of people.
27 minutes to the hour. We take another short break right here on NTV Weekend Edition. We have a lot more coming your way. Please stay with us.
Gladys Gachanja.
Welcome back. In his latest updates, the weatherman has predicted that the long rain season is expected to begin in this coming week, with many parts of the country put on high alert over possible flooding due to heavy rains. But while the skies are pregnant in these parts, the barrenness is evident in other parts, forcing residents to walk long distances in search of water and pasture for their livestock. With a 100 million shillings initiative to increase the resilience of marginalized households to climate change-related shocks through diversified livelihoods and improved natural resource management, it is hoped that residents of ASOL regions will be self-sufficient across the year.
The women of Dol Dol in Laikipia County emerged from the horizon, braving the harsh conditions, each with a can on their back, walking to the nearest water pan in search of a commodity that is becoming scarce with each passing day. At the water pan, the water has dried up completely, giving the women a challenge to dig deep into the earth in search of the precious commodity that they cannot afford to go back home without. The dried up rocks of earth are carefully picked apart and set aside, leaving room for the women to access the water underneath. When they finally get to it, it takes patience and precision to scoop the water. The not so clear liquid, a precious find that the women will take time to fill their cans with.
Ukifikisha nyumbani, unachemsha, unaweka kwanza ipoe, alafu unaanza kupatia watoto watumie kukunywa.
Asubuhi tukiamka kwenda maji, kabla tufike mahali tunaenda, tunakutana na ndovu. Tunabambana na ndovu, tunarudi kwanza nyumbani. Na mali bado tumefungia, ni mimi ndio nitakuja kufungua hiyo mali, iende malishoni, nirudi nikirudi kwa maji.
While man walks long distances in search of water, his animals are not so far behind, hoping that they will be led to a place where their thirst can be quenched with ease. But the scorching sun and sometimes rough terrain is not the only challenge they face.
Hadi usiku kuna mlolongo ya binadamu, mlolongo wa mifugo, na kisha ndovu watakuja na kuharibu zile mfereji kwa sababu ya ngaro.
Ukikuja hapa ukiangalia, unaona mandovu ndio imemaliza maji kuliko hata wanyama ya nyumbani.
Beyond the rocks lie the villages where the people of Dol Dol reside. Here, long extended lines of cans are visibly sighted from afar. The only available borehole serves many from far and wide. With the skies not having opened up in the recent months, many are worried that even this lifeline might soon give them its last drops. In many parts of the savannah lands, the few boreholes run by wind turbines, though spinning can barely supply enough water for the sustainability of the community living here. With the reality of human-wildlife conflict becoming a serious threat in the future and the weather patterns changing, it has become apparent that people living in ASOL regions need a sustainable solution to the challenges they face. Via the integrated management of natural resources for resilience, communities living in Laikipia, Isiolo, Marsabit and Samburu counties are expected to benefit from rangeland management and regeneration, increasing water availability through rehabilitating or establishing of new and strategic water points for productive use and increasing households with renewable energy.
If we continue to have such problems, our children will not be able to access school. The issues of health are going to be compromised.
In the next 3 years, the project will ensure that they secure livelihoods and strengthened markets, including for women and youth, that support sustained natural resources management, encourage sustainable management and rehabilitation of land, forest and water sources for strengthened ecosystem, and strengthen governance service and structures for sustainable NRM at community, county and national levels. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
Now, are you a lover of jazz? Well, something is awaiting you right after this break. Now, hundreds of students from different counties today enjoyed a day filled with jazz music entertainment and an array of different foods at the Kasarani grounds during the first day of the Safaricom International Jazz Festival. The festival, which featured supporting performances from Kenya Ghetto Classics and artists from Portugal, Belgium, Germany and the United Kingdom, seeks to mentor young and upcoming artists, especially those who will take on the mantle of spreading jazz.
The mellow tunes that rained out the air at the Safaricom Stadium kept the young who had attended this day's event on their feet. The students from across the country were here to be entertained by various jazz artists from different parts of the world.
It was really a great experience because they really love music, and people, the kids of Ghetto Classics, they are incredible musicians.
We're looking forward tomorrow to the great concert of the Safaricom. It has been great playing for the kids. It has been great giving workshops yesterday for Ghetto Classics.
The event was also a platform for young artists to learn from the masters. Adona Tony is one of such participants. To him, music is a way to get away from his thoughts and a great way of consoling himself. His love for music began at the tender age of 5. His first encounter with the violin was in high school, and while his mother struggled to get him one, he could only teach himself to play it in hiding. Despite the challenges he faced, he never gave up on his dream.
I loved the violin, but I never knew what it was called. Most of my schoolmates, they had some bad attitude towards me. So I used to stay alone and teach myself.
The event, which will feature artists from across the world in the next week, will culminate in an extravaganza over the weekend where revelers will be entertained. Fatma Bugu, NTV.
If you're a lover of jazz, you know where to be tomorrow. Now, the death of Dandora-based activist Caroline Mwatha in a botched abortion attempt at an unlicensed clinic has started the age-old debate on whether abortion should be legalized. The medical personnel who attended to Mwatha were unqualified and the legal clinic seemingly out of reach for those entrusted with monitoring and ensuring safety for Kenyans. Yet, unsafe abortions do cause deaths in the country, even as the debate on legality of the procedure continues. NTV's Helen Wanjohi sought answers to an old but tasking question.
The New Njiru Community Center, where Caroline Mwatha died during a botched abortion attempt.
Nyumba iko hapa nyuma hii ya mabati. Hapo ndio mahali wakisata wa mamimba wanaficha hapo.
The post-mortem results indicate that she bled extensively and that the baby she was carried was disfigured on one part of the head, according to the family doctor.
Somebody, somewhere, somehow, attempted to either dismember the fetus and then remove some parts, because the upper limb, the whole of it is not there.
There are those who say the Mwatha case should give rise to the opportunity for a rethink on abortion. It continues to be a debated topic here in Kenya and around the world, despite the fact that countries with access to safe abortion services have higher levels of reproductive health. The law in Kenya is highly restrictive on abortion and only contemplates it in extreme circumstances, such as when the health of the mother is at risk. Simon Mungai, a reproductive health provider, explains that the facilities and the staff who carry out these procedures endanger the lives of the women as they are not licensed to carry out these procedures.
Because if you're telling me a nurse is handling a 5 months abortion case, I mean, it cannot be. It's just mind-boggling. It's so scary. It's so scary. 2, does this facility have maybe a theater in the event of a perforation of a uterus, that somebody may need to open the abdomen and, yeah? Does this facility have a referral network? That this woman is bleeding more than I expect. Let me take her to her facility where she can be examined further.
Blocking people from safe abortion is just targeting the poor. And I think Carol did not belong to that category. of people who could not find a safe space for it, because there are doctors who are known, proper qualified gynecologists who are doing this to women, who are helping women, to access safe abortion.
Mrs. Nerea Mlale Ojanga, who has been a nurse and midwife working for 30 years, explains that the women who have undergone these backstreet abortions lie about the complications to medical practitioners once the procedure goes wrong.
First of all, to find out, is this bleeding coming from the abortion itself, or ruptures of the uterus, or the bladder? Sometimes even the intestines are involved, because you don't know what crude instruments are used. So then you act with speed to stop the bleeding, to do the repairs, and to make sure that the organs of this woman start, functioning.
In countries where abortion is illegal, unsafe abortions happen at a rate 4 times higher than in countries where abortion is legal. Helen Wanjohi, NTV.
A sensitive but very prudent conversation to have. On that point, we take another short break. Brian Otwal is next with the sporting action.